instead. Okay, I'm seeing sound levels, so that must mean that people can hear me. Just waiting to see if the stream's health is going to get a little bit better. Okay, that's the first and last time I try to use Bluetooth with these settings. Let me know how I am volume wise. I can try to talk a little bit louder, a little bit quieter, etc. Oh, amazing. Perfect. Appreciate the immediate feedback, guys. Texting Chris just to make sure we're all in a pretty good spot. Um, but good evening. If you joined us for the Division 1 draft, Chris was on the call, and now Chris gets to slide into the drafter seat. So, okay, just quiet. Perfect. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys all jumping in here. I'm going to go and see. I think this is as good as my display is going to get in terms of reading the chat. Thank you guys all so much for coming. And then the presentation all looks pretty good, so I'll do my best to have everything in a good spot. Glad to hear we got volume. Good to see some return customers. Tristan Bongo, you're in my Division 2 East League, and looking forward to competing against you there. Sam Bennett, that's a new one. SH. It's funny when you have something as distinct of a look as having a mustache, and albeit I get plenty of compliments on it, I will get compared to literally anybody that has a mustache. Like the biggest one living in Toronto, I get Davis Schneider, the baseball player, all the time. But it's anyone from Morgan Wallen to Stuart Skinner to Sam Bennett now. Literally anybody that has a mustache, I get that natural comparison. So it's never been an insult, thankfully, but genuinely, it's just funny. It's just funny that people will do that. But we got about 3 minutes to go here for the Division 3 Central Draft. Leading us off is the Mac Attack. Sisu Sauna Squad, a Division 4 champ, gets pick 2. FP Chris on the revenge tour after getting relegated from Division 2. He's got pick 3. We've got Brell, we've got Squids, and also Dusters picking 5. Yagerbombs picking 6. We've got Blueberry picking 7. Natural Born Kellers, I believe that's Terry, picking 8. We've got Ya picking 9. Fire and Ice, I recognize you from the Discord. I believe it's Stickster picking 10. We've got Stardoom pick 11, and then on the back we've got Chill. I was only Jokinen. Looks like Oli Jokinen in his photo. We got Tortorella. We got Mr. Potato Head. That's a good one. That I haven't heard that one before, and it'd be funny if I was just immediately insulted by that clip. But I'll take anything. I'll take anything. FP Chris about to take Fantilli at 3 overall. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, it's been an interesting year where naturally we're so used to McDavid being 1-1 and just that being the automatic pull the trigger. But the fact that Mac Attack has named his team as such could be throwing a smokescreen, but McKinnon has been going 1-1 in a number of drafts this year. I mean, naturally, when you compare the two, it's easy to say McKinnon could have 100 more shots on goal. So that's quite a big jump. But I don't know. McDavid said he needs to shoot more. McDavid is projected to score just 37 goals after only scoring, if this 2024-25 total at the top of the screen is correct, he only scored 26 last year, missing some time, in 67 games, so he missed a little bit of time, but naturally we've seen him score 50, 60, no problem. So we'll see. I think if he can score 50, he'll be head and shoulders above McKinnon in the overall total fantasy points on the year. But naturally, with 100 more shots on goal, you have a lot higher of a starting floor with McKinnon. So we'll see. I mean, and if your picks 3, 4, 5, you'll happily take the guys that come soon after that, whether it's Leon, whether it's Kucherov, whether it's Makar, whether it's any of the other high risk, high reward guys up there like Pasternak, Kaprizov. So we'll see how everything naturally plays out. I think. I mean, a few of you guys were in the Division One draft naturally, watching just before this. We got 30 seconds to go here before the D3 Central draft. Where was I going with that? Naturally, you see defensemen fly off the board pretty early. That creates some really good, interesting value, whether it's at the goaltender position or at, of course, up front. But we'll see what happens here if this. Maybe everyone learned from the draft earlier. We've got 10 seconds to go. I'm just gonna mute the draft sounds so we don't get any weird audio coming through there. But we are all good. Ryan says, is there any way to get in these FPPL drafts, or are they done? We're full for the year. There is a form, should be in the description, to join the wait list. Naturally, if we have any inactive teams, we'll go ahead and cut from the and replace from the wait list. So McKinnon goes 1-1. No shocker there. Given the name Mac Attack, and now Sisu's on the clock. It's nice to see all 12 people in the draft nice and early. McDavid at 2, no stress there. This first round should be pretty predictable, but we'll see how everything goes here. Dr. Doom says Tyreek just messed his knee up. That sucks. I have him in 1 or 2 football leagues. Naturally, I'm not double dipping here. If I could cut a hole in my wall and see the TV outside to watch a little football, I would. No surprises here. FP Chris goes Draisaitl at 3. Burrell goes with Cooch at 4. Squids goes with Cale Makar at 5. And now Yager Bombs is up at 6. Chris Hollywood, good to see you. Jealous of everyone drafting already. Your time will come. Chris Hollywood was one of the fan favorites last year with all of his trades and everything in the FPPL last year. Headbanger says, "Who's this rando Noah guy?" Not sure if you're referring to me or to anybody in the chat. The Govy name's Noah. On the Discord, I'm FP Sven. I'm the commissioner of our 14 FPPL leagues and do a lot of the back end stuff, but naturally get on the camera every now and then. So Yager Bombs goes Pasta at 6, Blueberry going with Kachuk at 7. I don't know if that's the highest we've seen Kachuk. Obviously, you see those juicy peripherals, and naturally there's a potential league winner there. And Natural Born Kellers goes Jack Hughes at 8. Wow. Okay, so yeah. Licks his lips and goes Matthews at 9. That's really good. And then if you're on the back half of this draft, you still see some 100-point upside players available. Stickster's got to be excited to get one of those here. Naturally, does that stalemate the D flying with so many good forwards available? People taking big swings here. I mean, we'll see. So get back to the chat here a little bit. Daniel says 4th pick in a 10-team league. Is it Makar or one of Dry Cooch? I think in a 10-team, there's going to be lots of D value. Speaking of D, Stickster goes Quinn Hughes at 10, Kaprizov falls to Stardom at 11, and now if you're chill, I was only Jokinen. There's lots of value on the board there. I mean, you want to grab who you're most confident in these first couple of rounds as you're building your team around that. So none of these guys are non-top 15 picks. It was just this is a different order than what I'm used to. Daniel, to answer your question, I would probably go one of Draisaitl or Kucherov to set the tone, knowing that you'll have a lot of D available in a 10-man league. Tristan Bongo says, "I know it's killing you watching all these drafts and having to wait." Yeah, we're drafting all of these leagues over the course of the next week or so, with the season starting a week from tomorrow. Um, Ranting it at 12, and then you have to think this is the latest I've ever seen some of these players go. Um, I was just about to make a complete fool of myself and say, how is Pasternak still available? But then I look up and see Jagerbombs took him 6. Stay hot, Sven. Um, but as we start the second round, big swing here with Mitch Marner at 13. I, uh, I like it. I see the upside. Um, with these first couple of rounds, if you can touch as many categories as possible, naturally you're setting yourself up for success and can kind of go with best available in later rounds rather than trying to pick away at certain peripherals or hitting certain metrics. So lots of assists and a fair amount of shots, but Marner is, he screams just straight up point getter for me, straight up assist machine. So we'll see what happens as we come back around with the third and fourth round. Willie Styles at 14, no surprise there, and Stickster comes up with his second pick. I'm gonna start the line at over under 76.5 sips of water during this hour and change we'll be together. Oh, Chichu, good to see you. Your display's Doctor Doom, so didn't recognize you. This is Sven. Yeah, putting a face to the name. I think I made my content debut last year doing a couple of these drafts, but when I have the time, I'm not as natural at it as Mike or Chris, but I genuinely enjoy being able to talk fantasy hockey and being able to voice this here. Stickster goes Kyle Connor. Should be pretty automatic 40-40, maybe even 100-point ceiling if we're getting up there. I think he was top 5, if not 6 or 7 for goals last year. That's just automatic when you have Kyle Connor. Similar player, Yago's Philip Forsberg at 2-4. The hit upside, and I'm kind of naturally going to buy low on a lot of Nashville this year. It's feeling like they can't possibly be as bad as they were last year. Obviously, they fell very short of their expectations last year. Panarin next for natural born Kellers. It's a good start with center left wing and then just a pure left wing. See what Blueberry does here after also grabbing a center left wing and Brady with his first pick. Getting some live reaction here. Stickster. James is Stickster. Okay, Kaprizov hurt me last year. Quinn felt safer. Yep, love it. Anytime you can get somebody who will, no matter what, drag their team into it. And when I think the Vancouver Canucks, I think Quinn Hughes just absolutely exhausted out there playing 30 minutes and doing everything and being a very high event player. So, like I said, these first couple rounds you have to be confident and call your shots. So I love that. Ham, good to see you. D2 West on the 5th. Yeah, we'll see. Naturally, this is a very busy time of year for me, for work and a lot of other things going on. But naturally, this is a really exciting time of year to start thinking about fantasy hockey as well. Recapping the last couple of picks, Blueberry goes Eichel. So high point ceiling. He's touching the peripherals with Brady, and then the point ceiling and the shots with Eichel, and then Jagerbombs goes Werenski, who, he was a guy for 3-4 years. Said, okay, this is the year. He was coming off, I think, a 20-goal, 20-something assist season. I said, okay, this is the year, and then he gets hurt, and then he gets hurt again, and then Columbus takes a massive step back. So to see him do what he did last year was awesome. And here's the D run. This tends to happen, but no surprises with these being the first 5 off the board. Squid's going double D, grabbing Darlene, and then Brell grabbing Bushbaum. So for all of these guys, and I don't want to be too predictive, but after seeing about 5D go, you have to think about forward value. You have to think about a certain far and away best goalie in the league last year and league winner where he was taken in some drafts being available. But we'll see what Chris chooses to do here. It's always nice to prepare a script of sorts, and always nice to have expectations. But sometimes you gotta audible and just go with best available on the board. Chris goes Gensel. He's going pretty good value again. If you look at Connor with that 40-40, 40-50 upside, Gensel's pretty well 40-40, but um, I think Kyle Connor's a little bit more if he can do it himself. I think Gensel will be benefit from his environment playing with a lot better players. Um, so very, very similar picks. I understand why Connor's going 5-10 picks higher, but I'll happily take Gensel at the back half of the second or early third. And there's Yossi. Okay, so he's been a very polarizing player to start this draft season, where we know the upside, and I think he was going as early as pick 13, pick 14 in FPPL drafts last year. So to see him debut at about round 5 value, we knew naturally with these drafts he'd go higher than that, but now we're starting to see him be, D6 to D10 off the board, which deservedly so. But it's always funny how guys can start the draft season either criminally over or underrated, and naturally they'll regress to the mean. With Yossi being as like the upside being there and him looking healthy, that's a good pick. And then we have Mac Attack on the turn going triple forward, double winger. We get J Rob, who we know what the ceiling is, and then with Matt Boldy, the dual eligible, we know what the floor is. So a couple guys that are fairly predictable. I'm interested to see what a full year of Dallas having that many skilled forwards does, and who benefits and who doesn't necessarily have the same opportunities as they would before Rantanen got there. But we'll see. Definitely interesting times for sure, and a great team to take a plus 900 flyer on to win the cup, because I don't think they're going to be any lower odds as the season gets going. Sisu goes Reinhardt, so that leaves Chris in a spot where there's still tons of value on the board. I mean, there's always value on the board when we look at as many fantasy hockey players and possibilities as we do. But yeah, normally do you see Pasta before Kaprizov Matthews? I think they're all interchangeable. Emmerich, naturally, guys will lean on either their fandom, or they'll lean on what they think the ceiling is, or they'll lean on what they think the floor is. So I think Pasternak is the safest floor naturally, a little bit less of an injury history, and he proved last year he could get 100 points by himself, or without Bergeron, Marchand on his side. So I think that's the safest floor. I think Kaprizov's the highest ceiling, and I think Matthews is somewhere in the middle, where we've seen him do what he does, but is the triple digit points there? The shots are there, the goals are there, but is the triple digit points going to be there? I'm not 100%. But I hope everybody's healthy this year, and I hope that all three players are good value. We go on a bit of a center eligible run. I mean, it all looks yellow on the screen here, but we know naturally Reinhardt is right wing. Chris goes with the natural center and point, but earlier he had Draisaitl with left wing eligibility, and then Brell goes with one of my favorite forwards in this mid round 3, early round 4 spot, in Tage, who I see 100-point potential. I love that I was able to see him get closer and closer to 50 goals last year. There's another sip of water for whoever's keeping track. Chris Hollywood gives me the shout out. Those draft recaps you've been doing are straight fire. Really appreciate it. I used to do some creative writing, 5-6 years ago. So to have an opportunity to kind of just have fun with it and get back into it has been a lot of fun. Naturally, I got to manage my own expectations for it and make sure I'm not just doing it to do it, but taking the proper time to make sure it's good. But really appreciate it. Dama Pass is under 77 and a half. Okay, so we'll see what it ends up being. if I run out, I'm screwed. But I've got a couple. I've got a couple shakers ready to go here. Thoughts on Snugger this season? I think it's a great flyer. I think if he gets the minutes, he'll be able to shoot and hit. And I've seen him on Thomas's wing in preseason, so let's hope that stays true. Catching up on a couple picks. JT Miller for Squids. I hope he's okay. That was a prime sort of bounce back candidate for us. Moving over, getting the captaincy, starting clean slate. So hope he's okay. Hagel for Yager Bombs. That's I want to say that's a little bit earlier than what we're seeing, but the 5-on-5 points are immaculate. So if he can just get some power play time, who knows what that ceiling looks like. And then Blueberry grabs his first D with Morrissey. That's just a D7 for Morrissey is probably pretty accurate. We know what that floor is over in Winnipeg, and he's a dog for them. Dual eligible winger for Keller, for natural born Kellers, so he calls his own shot there. And then what value for grabbing Hellebuck 3-9. I mean, for a guy that probably has, I haven't looked at the latest ADP, but probably still single digit ADP, going 3-9. That's really good. And then Stickster grabs Jimmy Stu with he's a guy that I want to say can get to that 90, maybe even 100-point ceiling, and he hits and he shoots a decent amount, and he's raw, and I love the way that Ottawa plays, and I think Cousins is going to play a big part into that, and they'll be each able to kind of set the tone on lines and let Brady do his thing on the wing, but sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back with him. I hope they have a good season, the Sens. And Stardoom grabs his first defenseman with Hedman. That's about where Hedman is going, so that's a good pick. And then we get back to Chill. I was only Jokinen, who went Rant, and then Marner. And now he's got back-to-back picks here. Chichu said he got Yossi in the 4th. Now he's going 2. Yeah, that'll happen once we get more updates on players and more clarity as things go. People will shift and change and everything like that. Dip, good to see you. I'm gonna do my best with the chat. I know. Naturally, I either get sidetracked on whatever I'm talking about, or I'll then fire off a few picks and dissect a few picks as they happen. Sanderson going 3-12. D9 for Sanderson. I ended last season, speaking of just, getting off the rails right away, before I'm even done saying what I was going to say, Sanderson, I ended last season going, okay, he'll be a top insert number here defenseman. And I asked the boys, Chris, Don, and Mike, I was somewhere between 9 and 12 based on what we saw, like a ton of power play points, and he's blossoming into that number 1 defenseman that Ottawa desperately needs. So we'll see what happens this year, but just quick count here. Yeah, D9 or D10 off the board. It makes a ton of sense. D9, and then Natchez on the turnaround to start the 4th round. Who, playing on McKinnon's wing, we've seen good things happen. So I hope he's able to produce what he can produce doing that. And then a good steady player for Stardoom going Brat 4-2. Mitchell says 100 times better than the Div 1 draft. The reaching on D was so absurd. That's an interesting take. I mean, naturally, there's definitely an emphasis and definitely sort of a meta established within our community of, hey, grab your D early because there's plenty of forward value later. Sometimes that cannibalizes the draft board, and all of a sudden you see all these D fly. But naturally, I like to have 2 or 3 in my first 6 or 7 picks. I think at that point I'm in a pretty good spot, depending on categories and depending on how the league is. Stickster grabs his second with Mo Sider, who skating power play 1 and is the peripheral machine we know him to be. So we'll see if he can take another step offensively. And grabs Celebrini, who we saw a lot of good things in his first year. So we'll see what that sophomore year is going to look like and what that ceiling is. Can he get to 75, 80 points, perhaps? Natural born Kellers goes Uyghur. That's about where Uyghur has been going. Maybe a little bit earlier in terms of the D that have come off the board. but naturally we're seeing a little bit of reading and reacting to Zane Parikh looking like an absolute cheat code out there offensively. So maybe Uyghur goes back to more of a minute muncher type role. And then Blueberry goes Lane Hudson with 4-6 to grab his second D. Naturally, we say the word defenseman, and there's a little bit, not a direct reaction, but naturally you start to look at the board or you start to look at your team and compare to your left and right and, see what the people around you need. That's kind of how I try to naturally make my decisions is, okay, well, if he's already got 2 goalies, I can wait for a goalie. That sort of thing. Jarvis going 4-7, that's about right. He'll touch most of those categories and be a steady contributor. I don't know what to think about Carolina and how that offense is going to run with so many sort of skilled Swiss Army knife wingers that are all about 5'9" to 5'11". But he's one where it's pretty safe knowing that he can deliver those peripherals as well. And then we go all shots on goal here with Cole Caulfield. It's funny, I've heard a couple of Montreal Canadiens haters call him the best 40 goal scorer to never score 40 goals. He got to 37 last year. It would have been really nice for him to get to 40 for my wallet, but we'll see if he can cross that threshold this year. And then Brell is up in the 4th round. 2 forwards and a defenseman so far for him, and he grabs his pure centerman with Sid the Kid, who is no longer a kid but still pretty steady. You're looking at 30 goals, probably 50 to 60 assists no matter what. Decent amount of shots on goal. I'm going to try and get back into the chat a little bit. I appreciate seeing some of our mods in here as well. Going with it. Chris runs the ball and grabs Kempe, pure right winger. Hit shots on goal and hits. Probably 35 goals, 35 assists, around there, as steady as it gets. Then Sisu grabs his second D with Adam Fox, who I see the appeal. I love for my number 1 or my number 2 D to be able to meaningfully contribute to everything a little bit better than he does. And Mac goes double D, so to go 3 forwards and then double D, that's a great start for Mac on that turn. Sergachev and Seth Jones, naturally in a standard draft, you aren't seeing those guys go till round 6, round 7, round 8, but when you're on that turn, you almost have to take some big swings, and if you like what you see on the board, you got to remember that you're waiting 20, 24 picks to get back to where you are. So naturally, it makes a lot of sense to grab the players that you want, grab your guys. That's what I say when I'm on the turn. So I got to get my guy before he's even a round or 2 rounds early. Wyatt going 5-2 to Sisu. That's a great pick for Wyatt. We talked about Dallas a couple minutes ago and seeing who's going to be that beneficiary. I think the last I checked, he's still skating between J-Rob and Rantanen, which would be awesome for him. And he's only a couple years into his career, but very, very steady player so far. Chichu goes, what is this, Apples and Genos? Where are the goalies? Yeah, that's what happens sometimes. And Chris grabs his D1, somebody I'm very high on, and Thomas Harley. We saw him take a step that last year with Heiskanen being out. Now, naturally, with the wagon that they have and being able to confidently play both of those guys 25-plus minutes, we'll see who gets power play 1. It's a little bit risky as I think they're both getting reps at power play 1 as it currently stands, but I'm very high on Harley. I'm considering keeping Harley in one of my leagues that Mike and I are drafting next week, the day before the season starts. Considering keeping him just for that upside and being able to dominate out there. Brell goes to Brinkett. You know what you're getting there, 30-30. Hopefully crosses about 250 shots if he can get there. Him reuniting with Patrick Kane has been great for him last year. My roommate's a diehard Red Wings fan, so I managed to watch plenty of DeBrincat last year. Last one says, what do you think about Boyum having bad games during the preseason? I think any young player is going to naturally show a little bit of that. I don't think it's a lack of confidence. I think it's just a little bit of, not being in the full swing of things and not necessarily looking at a place, but having moments. So I wouldn't take too much stock into it. We finally get our second goalie. Squid's going with Otter. 5-5 for Otter's great. Naturally seeing Otter, seeing a couple other absolute stud goalies available, people are gonna if I've got my two defensemen here, I think I'm maybe looking goalie if the value's right. Jagerbombs goes Gunther. I mean, we think we know what that ceiling is. I'm really hoping for 30 goals, 70 points for my wallet. Blueberry takes Vasilevsky, so he's looking very solid right now with a couple point heavy D. He's got his peripherals covered in Brady as long as he can stay healthy. And then he grabs his first goalie here, and that brings up Natural Born Kellers. Wild fans have been complaining a lot about Boyum. I think he's one of those players that naturally, it might take him a bit to blossom into that, bringing everything to the table. But they know they have that raw talent. And they know that, they need to mentally prepare for not having Jonas Brodin and Jared Spurgeon out there all the time, right? So to bring in a guy that has the talent and watch him blossom, maybe he's that Shane Gostisbehere type this year where the minutes aren't quite there, but the power play point upside is, and maybe he shoots a decent amount, but we'll see what they do down in Minnesota. I mean, tons of skill on that team, tons of young talent. Natural Born Kellers goes Michkov 5th round. That's a big swing, but we love what we saw that first year, and we think that coaching change is going to naturally get him off to a really good start. Whether he's with Couturier, whether he's with Zegras, I think he might be able to drive his own line, and then the guys around him will be beneficiaries of that. Grabs his first D with Theodore. I think if I was Chris and in his mind with that 5th round pick, he probably flipped a coin between Harley and Theodore. Maybe he went Harley just for the health recently. And then Stickster, great value getting Igor at the end of the 5th round. Still another stud goaltender available that I'm sure will go by the time we're done this 6th round. EP40 at the tail end of round 5 for Stardoom, probably another one of those really, really polarizing players. And you think all of the distractions in Vancouver and all of the maybe a little bit of lack of confidence last year, and a coaching change can sometimes help unlock certain things or teach a player how to correct their habits and how to gain their confidence again. But I definitely think this could be a turnaround year for EP40, and 5th round is a good spot to gamble on that. As Chilla was only Jokinen wraps up the 5th round with Chychrun. That's his second defenseman, and then we'll see what he does here with pick 6-1. I don't know what the over-under is on water sips, but I'm taking the over on 78 naturallys by the end. I love that, J-Mac. I was just about to say it again. Sometimes you just have those transitions or those pieces of your sentence that you go back to, and they feel natural. But I'll try and get the thesaurus out on my phone here and see if I can spice it up a little bit for you guys. I appreciate everybody turning out. I'm a bit of a rookie when it comes to this YouTube stuff and when it comes to the looking at how things are going, but chat's buzzing, so that's all I care about. If you like Hudson as a pick, you have to like Fox as well. TBH, 0 perfs for both. Yeah, naturally. That's a good point. I think I'm just tired of Fox, honestly. Like, he's a good pick at where he went. I think it's just something that I'm like, I don't know if I'm bored of Fox. He won his Norris, and he's smooth, and he does all of his deceptions, and and he's a good player, but I I get a little bit more excited when I watch other guys play, if that makes sense. Maybe it's just because he sits in the rocking chair back there and he's so efficient at how he goes. But um, Nate Dogg called his shot with Chris's pick around 5. That's awesome. Um, R6 Hokage says, I don't know how I feel about Chris's draft. We'll see. I mean, going forward, heavy with the value that's been on the board is what I probably would have done too. Naturally, you think these next 2 picks, you've got to you see the D go off the board, and you think, okay, I should probably start thinking about that, or I should probably start not reaching, but naturally deciding who that next player is and where they might get taken and prioritize certain things. But we start the 6th round with a couple of wingers and Konechny and Ovechkin. Stardium goes Dougie, grabs his second D. Hopefully he can stay healthy and quarterback that offense. And we've got Bedard going 6-4. That's good value for Bedard. Has stacked up a couple first overall picks here. Matthews, Celebrini, Bedard. Bedard's got the right wing eligible, so he's not necessarily handcuffed by putting one of those in utility, which is good. And then Kellers goes with John Carlson as his second D. Hopefully Harley gets PP1. Yeah, I agree. Wicked. Vegas has a good coach. They'll end up with Marner QBing and Doro on the wall. I saw they were doing a 5 forward power play look. So we'll see how it ends up playing out. I think Theodore was there when healthy last year, and I think Hannafin got some looks when Theodore went down, but they've got a decent amount of skill there. So I think they've got plenty of options in terms of that. Stardoom having a great draft so far, as per Nolan. Good start naturally. Let's just keep saying naturally. You know what? Screw the chat. Sanderson over Fox, Mitchell says. I agree for the upside and that fantasy outlook. Blueberry goes Kairu. That's right where I try to target grabbing Kairu, so that's a great pick. And then Yager Bombs grabs his first pure C with Nick Suzuki. Blossomed into what we now know him as a couple of seasons ago, and with having such skilled wingers around you and being such a good player and making the players around him better, the point ceiling is definitely there. And Squids and Dusters grabs Shifley, who crazy to think he was a round 12, round 11 pick last year and ended up, I think, but at one point he was a top 20 rank player mid-season. So 6'8" is good value. You'll see some pure centers in and around this spot, and that's a position where there's so much good value that you almost pick your spots at it. So if I'm taking a McKinnon or McDavid, I'm probably not taking another pure center for a bit, and I'll try to fall down to about that round 9, round 10, where there's plenty of good value there. Brell goes Timo, who crazy. I mean, I think he's about round 8 or round 9 ADP this year. Went round 3 or 4 last year with we all know what San Jose Timo was like. So we're hoping he can unlock that again. That top 6 is loaded, so there's not always the guarantee that he'll have power play 1 upside, but the peripherals are great. And Chris goes with another, he's sole right winger right now, I think, but I could have sworn he got left wing eligibility last year. Lucas Raymond. My roommates and I are doing squad ride. Lucas Raymond over 90 points. Those Yahoo projections look nice towards that. But I don't have a favorite team, but watching plenty of Red Wings games these days with the roommates. Sisu goes with Ehlers, who should be able to unlock that extra gear now that he's not in Winnipeg and at sometimes skating on the 4th line. So hopefully he's got first line. Hopefully he's got power play 1. and Mac Attack. We're all gonna believe in Kevin Fiala, and particularly in second half Kevin Fiala. Um, about as steady as they come, and I love when he gets to those games where he's shooting the puck 5-6 times a game and driving that offense, kind of that second punch behind Kempe. I want to say right now Kuzmenko was on that first line left wing with Kopitar Kempe, but that's plenty of skill on that second line. Whether you have Fiala, Byfield, and insert player here, whether you slide Deneau in the middle, Byfield on the wing, plenty of skill in that top six. I'm not really sure how I felt about the rest of the changes they made in the offseason, the players they brought in, but uh, they know what they have up front, which is good. Aho goes 7-1. Like I said, another pure C with plenty of value at this spot. And then Sisu goes third D off the board for him, first to 3D. If I'm Chris, I may have wanted a second defenseman there, but now if I'm naturally slipping into a spot where, okay, what is the next chunk of D available? Do I take a big swing here, or do I go with value on the board? So there's still play. I don't see the board, but having done this enough, I know that there's plenty of value on the board. I'm just going to. Oh, there we go, Mackenzie Blackwood. So good pick for Chris there. I haven't seen the latest in terms of when he'll be fully back, if he is already. With work being a little busy, I haven't been on the preseason and training camp grind as often, but good value there at 7-3 for Chris, grabbing his first goalie. Ovechkin goes 20 picks later than last draft. LOL. Yeah, the Russian machine never breaks, Nolan. That if anytime there's any doubt that Ovechkin's gonna, I mean, Father Time's undefeated, but he definitely definitely silenced all of those doubters last year with kind of a renaissance season. Burrell going Noah Dobson there at 7-4. I scrolled up a little bit to save myself. I'm looking at the preview. I might go a little bit in the middle just so we can kind of fully paint the picture of what the teams are looking like so far. We know what the first round was and how that shaped the rest of it, but I want to make sure that my big old head's not blocking the active picks. Squids goes with Marchenko. We saw 30 goals last year. We saw just over 200 shots last year. With the people around him in Columbus blossoming, I could see him being about the same spot, maybe a little bit higher if he's a beneficiary of a breakout season from one of those other forwards. But it's all going to depend on how they make those lines up. Jagerbombs grabs his second defenseman with Lacombe. A lot of hype around Lacombe this year. Had a really good kind of established himself last year. 130 shots, 130 blocks, and a sneaky 43 points. I don't know what to make of Anaheim, but I see a couple other skilled defensemen there that might take that power play one away from a guy like Lacombe, who had a little bit of power play upside last year, not crazy. We're seeing him go within those first 15, 20 defensemen off the board. I would probably be a little bit hesitant to take him, but at this point in the draft, you're probably you're grabbing any D you can get with your second or your third D. Blueberry goes Matthew Nyes, guy that's now been thrusted into that first line left wing full time, presumably on Matthew's wing. So hopefully a big peripheral sort of unicorn season for Nyes where you can get 30 goals, 70 points, and you're throwing your weight around. I mean, round 7 value is great, especially with the settings that we use here in FPPL. Another good natural center with two good natural centers with some value here. Heischer for Kellers. Yago's with his second goalie, so he's set between the pipes with Gus. Another Wallstead looked ready a couple years ago, but then had a bit of a setback, so Gus should still have plenty of volume in mini. And then Stickster goes with the timeless JT, who should be an automatic 30-30. Shoots the puck plenty still too, and should still be a mainstay trigger option on that power play in Toronto. So we'll see if he can sustain that another season. And there's the stash of Matthew Tkachuk, 7-11. We've seen that as early as round 4, as late as about round 7. So Stardoom liking what he has so far with the wingers and all of his forwards are winger eligible, so it's not necessarily tied down anywhere. And then 2 defensemen, so if you can make it through those first few months and then add a 90-point upside, bit of a unicorn in terms of what he brings with the shots and the hits as well. That's a good gamble for Stardoom if we can survive those first couple of months without Tkachuk. Jamie says, no favorite team. Did you give up on the Leafs long ago? I've naturally always been surrounded with Leafs, being from Ontario and having relatives that cheer for the team and having good friends that cheer for the team. My dad's a Bruins fan, so I would, if anything, I started with watching Bruins games and learning about that and seeing the Bruins win in 2011 during those formative years. But I think just being such a big fan of the game and not wanting to miss anything, because if I had to watch the Leafs play the Islanders on a Wednesday night and I'm missing Colorado play LA, then I'm gonna want to watch those skilled players on Colorado and LA. I don't need to see how the Leafs do every night or how any given team does every night. So Mike and I are kind of sickos that way, where we'll just throw anything on. Give me Utah, give me Vancouver, give me Winnipeg. It doesn't matter. Blackwood at that spot is solid for Chris. Couldn't agree more. Colin says Dobson at that spot's way too early. Yeah, he should still have the 5-on-5 production. I mean, they're not going to go 2D on power play 1 with the skill they have up front. So you got to manage your expectations on what that point ceiling is. But he won't be that top 10, top 5 caliber fantasy defenseman like we thought he would be in Long Island 2 years ago. He had a really, really good season 2 years ago. And then he was kind of D5, D6 off the board last year and had an underwhelming season. But we'll see. I think he'll be serviceable, and I think he'll contribute to everything. But we'll see. EK6-5 at the end of the 7th round. If he can stay healthy, that's great. And then going with a banger, Jokinen is with Dylan Holloway. Stardoom gets some great goaltender value with Markstrom at 8-2. Love that. And then we've got some steady forwards here. We got Batherson, who touches the shots and hits, and there's some goal upside. Yaz got Dylan Larkin, so he's got his two pure centers now. He's got 3 pure centers now. Okay, Matthews is pure center, then Celebrini, Larkin. And then we've got Keller's going Aiden Hill, grabbing his first goalie. Should be plenty of volume and plenty of wins there for Aiden Hill, who, a little bit of controversy with the Vegas goalies over the past couple of years, but has kind of won that starter spot. Blueberry going with the, if healthy, first line left wing in Colorado, Nichushkin. Very excited to see what he can do in a full 82 games. Jagerbaum's getting some good value with Sorokin round 8. Squids takes his guy with Verswaggy round 8. He's a guy that was incredibly unlucky last year, and we kind of know what that ceiling can be. With the injuries they've sustained heading into the season, they're going to need somebody to put the puck in the net. They're going to lean on him and Reinhardt a lot. So we'll see what Verswaggy's able to do. And that brings up Burrell's 8th pick. I believe he went Bouchard round 2, and then now he went Dobson round 7. So 2 defensemen, no goaltender yet. He goes Alex Tuck, who, again, a couple years ago we saw that mainstay sort of 70, 80 point upside. A ridiculous amount of blocks for a forward as well. Good shots on goal. So somebody's got to put the puck in the net in Buffalo, and it's going to be him and Tage a lot. I like I like to think that Josh Norris can stay healthy and score 30, but we'll see with that as well. Um, I'm going to try and not move the draft board as much as possible, just for all of you that suffer from motion sickness from time to time. FPPL scoring values block shots pretty strongly. Yeah, like you want to get that peripheral and that category coverage naturally with blocks being worth a full point, shots 0.9, hits 0.5. So definitely important to have those kind of minute muncher defensemen. Chris goes with my comfort pick in Svechnikov. I've taken him in at least a couple leagues, just about every single season he's been in the NHL, and I'm ready to be emotionally hurt again. I hope that he can stay healthy and have those 4-shot, 4-hit games. Gets in Brindamore's doghouse every now and then, so got to manage our expectations on that. But solid pick for round 8. Sisu grabs his goalie with Dustin Wolf, and then that brings Attack back up on the turn. He grabs his first goalie in Bob. Good value for. I still think they're going to be a playoff team and be able to rattle off wins. And he's shown that he can be that stoic, Vezina vote type goalie. But the injuries scare me a little bit. I think they'll probably finish third in that division. Tampa and Toronto ahead of them. We'll see, though. And then Attack grabs the Swiss Army knife, Ricard Raquel. I say that because he's triple forward eligible. Really, really good, sneaky 70 points for a team that wasn't very fun to watch last year in Pittsburgh. There's the trade rumors. Is Dubas going to strip it all down? Is Crosby getting traded? But Ricard was a bright spot for that team, so let's hope he repeats that. Good value for 9-1. I think he's going anywhere round 9 to round 12 or so, but good floor. And then Sisu goes with a category coverer and Trocheck. Now we'll see what happens with JT Miller. Trocheck could kind of get a bump if JT Miller's going to miss time, but good value, a good kind of FP mainstay type guy. And then Chris is just saying, you know what, I'm good with Philip Broberg being my second defenseman. As he goes with Barzal, good value and a big swing for a player that missed a lot of time. But we know what his ceiling is when he's fully healthy and confident. I think Patrick Waugh and him are going to get along well and be able to kind of turn the page in terms of no longer boring Islanders hockey. They'll be able to fill the net a little bit. We know that 50, 60 assists is achievable if he's healthy and everything's clicking there on Long Island. And then Brell goes with, honestly, I thought that was what Chris was going to do there, grabbing Riley. That's Brell's second or third defenseman. I did that last time too. Bushbaum, Dobson, and then he grabs what should be power play 1 Toronto with Riley at 9-4. I thought Chris was going to take his guy, but when you see that forward value, you can trust to get your peripheral coverage in later rounds with the defenseman that'll be available there. You don't necessarily need the power play 1D like we said in the chat down here, but yeah, we'll see. Bouchard Williams says, where does Batherson slot when he's on the roster uninjured? Maybe power play 1. I forget what their setup was, but I don't know who else would take a spot from him with Brady and Stützle kind of being mainstays there. And then you got lots of options for net front. You got lots of options for you're obviously going to have Batherson or Sanderson on the back end. Maybe Drew's bumping or distributing. I don't know if you'd have Cousins, Stützle, and Kachuk all on the same unit because they can all kind of be net front and crash and bang, but you probably don't need all 3 of them on the same unit. Squids goes with Montour, who is hopefully healthy. I know he's banged up. He can kind of do it all, and we've seen him capable of having really, really, really good seasons. So being as deep as we are into the defenseman, that's good value for Montour. And then Jagerbombs goes with an FP mainstay in Joel Eriksson Ek, or Jeek as we call him. Blueberry goes with one of our league winners from last year, Darcy Kemper. Really good value for Kemper given, LA's a pretty well a mainstay playoff team, and a healthy Kemper saw about 50 starts last year, so good value for Kemper. And then another good natural center in Robert Thomas for Kellers. Yeah, goes with Miro Heiskanen, who, given the D that are around, that's great value, and that's a good gamble in case he gets that power play one. Heiskanen's one of those like top 5 eye test defensemen. You see him and you say, "Oh my goodness, what a player!" And you see how dynamic he could be. And then he had that 60 point season a couple of years ago, and then just hasn't been able to kind of find that ceiling for fantasy purposes yet. Again, but I think I lean more on Harley for the offense and Heiskanen for the minute munching, but we'll see what happens this year. I think they're both getting reps at power play one. Stickster goes with Ghost, who is power play one for now, and a great, you know exactly what you're getting out of him in terms of the offensive output. And then Stardoom, round 9 for Sam Bennett. Okay, I was curious where that was going to happen. I'm sure we've all seen it now. Barkov, gruesome injury, out 7 to 9 months. So Sam Bennett going to naturally slide into that number 1 center position for now. And he was probably about round 11, round 12 value before that happened. But now to be able to be a bit of a unicorn and shoot and hit, but then also be able to get those first line minutes, and I think Lundell would probably naturally move into sort of a shutdown role, more so than Barkov did, like kind of make up for Barkov being out. So we'll see what happens in Florida, but great spot for Bennett and a great spot for kind of a mainstay. You know what you're getting out of Rupe Hintz. Again, going back to Dallas, I don't know if the amount of skill they have will help or hurt him. Maybe he's more in a second line center role, and you get a skill player. You get a skill player on your left, and then maybe a younger guy like Maverick Bourque who has some upside on your right. But we'll see. And then Demko for Jokinen, is that their first goalie? First goalie for Jokinen is Demko. So high risk, high reward. We know what he's capable of. We saw a couple years ago him be such a great option for a number 1 goalie. So hopefully he can refine that. Stardoom going with a good gamble with Zach Hyman. You know, we saw 50 goals a couple years ago, so hopefully he can stay healthy and get back to that and be on McDavid's wing. And then Stickster goes with Saros, round 10. That's about where he's going. I still think, again, we're buying low on Nashville this year. It's tremendous value. It goes with who I'm considering the chicken fingers of this draft. And if you don't know what I mean, if you go to a restaurant, you can always order chicken fingers and kind of know what you're getting. So Thomas Hertl, you know what you're getting. 30-30. I might touch 180, 200 shots. So really good value there. You know what you're getting. And then Kellers grabs their second goalie with Stolars, who hope we see the news with Wall, and hopefully everything's all right. And we saw Stolars kind of blossom into that number 1 looking goalie when healthy. So they haven't projected 45 starts. It could easily be 50, 55, and playing on a good team, so plenty of wins there. Blueberry goes Slavkovsky to complement the sort of crash and bang wingers he has already. Hopefully he can take that next step. Jagerbombs goes Luke Hughes, who might not have a contract right now, but should be able to put together a nice season if he's healthy. And then Squids, Chris might be punching the air. I mean, he's pretty good up front, but to see Fantilli go 2 picks before you, to know what he may be capable of and may be able to take that next step. Oh, in the Yahoo chat, Chris just went, no, and then a sad face. So hate to see it. Still plenty of value out there now. Don saying, can you turn the lights down, please? Pretty bright on the cam. Transparently, I'm working with little to no lighting right now. It's a little bit of a challenge. I usually rely on natural lighting to make me look as ugly as I am, but I'll try and tilt that shade a little bit. See if that gets a little bit better. I can't even see my screen right now after staring directly into that. But let me catch up on the chat a little bit. So Brel goes Kadri, who again exactly what you're getting out of Kadri, a mainstay in this spot in the draft. And then Chris finally grabs his second D with we heard he was catching a little bit of flack earlier. Maybe turns into a bit of a riverboat gambler where he's producing, but the minutes are sheltered a little bit. Hopefully he's power play one. Z Buyam 10-10. That's good value, and the spot that Chris is currently in to grab that second D round 10. A little bit of work to do, but the forwards are great, and he got great value with Blackwood round 7. Macatak grabs one of our boys in Owen Tippett, who hopefully him and Talkett gel, and that makes for a good bounce back season for Tippett. We saw kind of 30-30 capability there a couple of seasons ago, so hope he gets back to that. Macatak grabs Nurse, who, few seasons ago, I remember doing a little bit of research. Him, Seth Jones, and maybe one other defenseman were 100 plus shots, 100 plus hits, 100 plus blocks. So to get a category cover like that, you see the projections at the top of the screen where he's still, love or hate his contract, he's still going to be munching minutes, and he's still going to be able to contribute an okay amount of 5-on-5 points, but eat pucks and bang bodies and do his job there in Edmonton. They need somebody to do it, and is a way more attractive fantasy option than a guy like Ekholm, who really just kind of soaks minutes less than he dictates the play out there. Like, he's really good at what he does, but Nurse kind of adds a certain element to it. Chris, okay, so I'm thinking he wanted one of Fantilli and Cooley, another guy that another year, is this year 3 or year 4 for Cooley? I can't recall. Maybe year 3. Another guy that we kind of expect to, all right, is this the year he can take another full big step into that 30 goal, 70 point player that they know they drafted 3rd overall a couple of years ago. Wicked, appreciate it. For anybody that doesn't know, Dovidas Neverauskas is a FP Don screen name. Kadri's going to look so nice between Verhaeghe and Reinhardt soon. You know what, Taco? I don't hate that. I don't think that's a stretch to predict that, to be completely honest. Nolan likes Stardoom's team so far. I'm inclined to agree. I think they've had a strong draft. We'll break it down a little bit here at the end. Naturally, as you guys know, or if you're new to this, in the Discord, I've been breaking down the drafts with a little quick write up at the end. So I don't want to do too much post draft here if I'm going to be also writing something either later tonight or tomorrow morning. So we'll see. We'll give a little bit. Maybe at the end we can, if anybody's drafting that's in the chat, we can kind of talk about that team individually or something like that. Stamkos round 11, that continues to blow my mind given where he was just a few seasons ago. Hopefully he can find that sort of renaissance that we've seen Ovechkin find, that we've seen Tavares find. Zane Parikh for Squids. Let's take a quick look at where Squids is at defense-wise. So Makar, Dahlin, Montour, Parikh. That's fairly well-rounded, and you have a little bit of insurance where you've got some coverage on the other categories that if Parikh just ends up being a pure, power play 1 sheltered minutes like we might see with Boyum, or like we might see with some of the other D that are going to go these next couple rounds, I think that's a well-rounded D core, all things considered. So 4D for Squids so far. Then we go Paterka for Jagerbombs, who that trade surprised me a little bit, but I think that'll be a good home for Paterka, and We'll see what the makeup of that top six is and what the 5-on-5 opportunities are and the power play opportunities are. Blueberry goes with Velarde, should be 30 goals, should be 60, 70 points if he's still first line right wing. Kellers goes with Cam Fowler, who I really like, and kind of he had a bit of a bounce back and refound his identity once he got traded. So let's see if he maintains power play one there in St. Louis. Yeah, going Demidov round 11. That's about where he's going, and the upside is definitely there. This is where we might see, we've seen Fantilli, we've seen Cooley, now we see Demidov. People will start to take their swings in these next few rounds at, you know what, we're not quite fully at that dart throw, but if they truly feel confident and certain that a certain player is going to be able to take that step, now's the time to sort of take that swing. Obviously, you'll see a lot of potential in those last 2-3 rounds of the draft, and a lot of guys, oh, you know what, if everything goes right, that could be a great pick, but you'd hate to have somebody queued up and wait and say, oh, I can get this guy round 16, and then somebody else fires on it round 13, and it ends up being a league winner pick. So definitely, if you like the makeup of your team through those first 10, 11 rounds, and then you just want to get a little exotic with it, definitely a good time to do so. Stickster goes with a good. We'll see what his 5-on-5 minutes look like. I mean, he's getting older. The guys around him are blossoming a little bit more. They're bringing in a little bit more skill here and there. But usually a good mainstay sort of category cover with Frankie V. With Kreider being there too, we'll see what the usage of both of them is like. But like the pick. Started to get some good value with Tom Wilson round 11, who was a later round guy last year, but sort of showed he's still so good at what he does and being that unicorn player, power forward. Jokinen gets some pretty good value with Dunn. I talked about this a little bit this morning or this afternoon with the other draft breakdowns. I have no idea what to think of Seattle. You see Montour, you see Dunn, you see some potential value there depending on what their power play situation is like. Okay, so Jokinen went Demko first goalie, but then grabs Veggie Volume round 12. I think he could easily start 50, 60 games, no problem in Utah. If he started all 82, I honestly wouldn't bat an eye, knowing what their current situation is like and knowing he's able to put those miles on himself. Stardom grabs Doughty, round 12, good value. Hasn't quite changed the guard yet. We'll see if Brant Clark takes a little bit more of a power play step this year and with the other skill they have, but should still be good for shots and blocks and kind of soaking up those minutes, knowing that Clark is still going to probably be right around 20 minutes a game, if that. Stickster goes a good, used to be like as steady as they come with that floor. Took a bit of a step back last year, but hopefully, like all those other Nashville guys, we see a good bounce back. Marcia, so he's going to fire the puck. Hopefully he gets a little bit more luck this year and it goes in a little bit more often for him. Only 21 goals last year, but I'd say a backdoor ceiling of 30 goals if everything goes right in Nashville. Yeah, grabs, is that goalie 3? Hellebuck round 3, Gus round 7, and then caps it off with Binnington round 12. That's great. If Clutch Gene was a fantasy stat, I think Binnington would be going first round value naturally. It's a me says, man, those write-ups are amazing, awesome for the league. Yeah, a lot of the feedback we got last year with FPPL was finding ways to integrate more content, finding ways to get people talking about it a little bit more. Yes, these live streams are creative and awesome, and we get to capitalize on the hype of preseason hockey and draft season, but having a little bit more nuggets, a little bit more details, a little bit more recaps, definitely something we want to try and achieve this year with FPPL and keep keep the interest and keep everybody active and engaged throughout the year. So I think the draft write-ups are just kind of the tip of the iceberg of what we can and what we think we're capable of with the competitive leagues. It's crazy to think it's year 3 already when just a couple summers ago we said, oh, you know what? Like I think there's enough of a brand here and there's enough of people that watch the channel to think they'd want to all play fantasy hockey together. And that's kind of how it was conceptualized. So very fun to be in year 3 already. Let's catch up on a couple picks here. A bit of a goalie run on the back half, but we'll start with Brian Rust, 60 points if healthy. Somebody's got to put the puck in the net in Pittsburgh. Then we've got a couple of younger defensemen. I wouldn't call these gambles because we're seeing all the right things in camp, but Sam Rinzel, and then should be power play 1 in Chicago as far as we know, and then Nikishin or however you want to say it in Carolina. They know what he was able to do in the KHL. I think it might still take a year for him to fully blossom, but he joined their team the last few games of the season, if I remember correctly, or stepped in for playoffs. And then we see a goalie run where we're here now where it's not the worst idea to, even if you don't like a team on paper, their number one goalie is going to get peppered and they're going to have plenty of volume, and if they stand on their head, they're going to be the reason their team's winning the games. So we see 3 of those in a row. We've got Montembeault, and then my boy Lucas Dostal for Brell, and then Chris goes with Swayman. So Blackwood Swayman is good volume when healthy, when everything's clicking. So that's a fairly good goalie tandem. Still 2D. I don't know if that's how Chris drew it up before the draft, but we'll see what we do in the teen rounds here as we keep going. Couple of great forwards that I'm high on this season, particularly with Will Cooley, hopefully in a permanent top 6 role with the Rangers, and then of course we talked about the Kings a little bit in their top 6 makeup. So Byfield goes tail end of round 12, center right wing. And then somebody I'm very high on this year, Marco Kasper, goes 13-1. Skating between DeBrincat and Kane, hits a ton, had sort of a mini breakout season last year. So if he's a full-time centerman on a line like that and able to create separation for some skill players in DeBrincat and Kane, I think it'll go well. And then Sisu goes Skorofayev, who I think Chris is a big fan of this year, but naturally he's at a bit of a crossroads where at some point the defensemen have to get on the roster. He goes Ekblad, and then Brell goes Parayko. I think those two are pretty interchangeable. Parayko's a little bit better of a, what's the word I'm looking for? He's been a little bit healthier, but should both eat minutes for their respective teams. You think if Florida's missing some guys, they might be pinned down a little bit more than they are, and they'll rely on a guy like Ekblad to eat pucks and contribute that way. And Squids goes with Kiefer Sherwood, the undisputed hits champion last year. So we'll see if the minutes continue there. He had about 40 points, so you get a little bit of contribution. 140 shots last year, so a little bit there. But with hits being half a point, you have a decent floor with Sherwood being in your lineup, so that's pretty good. Soaring Ostrich, we're talking about Montreal in the chat a little bit here. Demidov moved down to third line with Kapanen and Newhook, and then Bolduc moves up. Okay, I wasn't sure what Bolduc's role was going to be. He had some sandpaper to that lineup, which is great. He had a good, sneaky good rookie season. So, and then Soaring Ostrich says, I would argue Habs have no second, third, and fourth line. Obviously, Slav, Suzuki, Caulfield will be one line, and the other 3 lines will kind of be interchangeable. Anderson, Evans, Gallagher will be a matchup line. That makes sense. They're pesky to play against. When you're not power play 1 and your identity is to when you have I think of Carolina, I think of Montreal. Of they've got some good character. Winnipeg too, some good character bottom six that is going to um, soak up some of that 5-on-5 minutes. So if I'm sometimes hesitant to okay, yes, top six is great, but if it's if all of the lines are getting used evenly at 5-on-5, that's what frustrates me with Carolina sometimes. And you see Svetch play 15 minutes, and you find out he took a penalty and he got benched for a little bit, that sort of thing. So something to make note of with certain teams. Um, we'll catch up a little bit here. Decord for Yager Bombs. That's his second goalie after grabbing Sorokin round 8. A couple defensemen who soak it up 5-on-5 should contribute pretty meaningfully to some categories with Forsling and with Pionk. I think Pionk is a little bit more of a hits and blocks guy. Forsling can have some sneaky points and soak up some good minutes 5-on-5. Then Yago's Marchand, who I'm not really sure what to think. The injuries help him for sure in getting a little bit more elevated of a role, but we'll see what that looks like in Florida. Um, good center value in Dylan Strome, round 13 for Stickster. And then Stardoom grabs, is that defenseman 4? Defenseman 4 with Tony D, the Riverboat Gambler, who, at least for that first half, will quarterback power play and maybe like Gostisbehere play a little bit sheltered minutes, but be able to contribute some points and some power play points while their rookie Matthew Schaefer kind of finds his way. I'm assuming he'll make the team out of camp, but Deuce says line A Doc, not a good mix to stick a rookie with. Yeah, that sounds like a line on paper that would have a hard time keeping the puck out of their net. We'll see. Line is a fairly polarizing player in the way that he can take over games, but then he can also play 11 minutes and just use his shot on the power play. So Mark Trent says, what's everyone thinking of Sam Urson? That's a really good question. I don't know what their other goalies situation is. We saw a couple of different guys net some starts last year. Urson was a sneaky great sort of volume play. With that Eastern Conference and a lot of teams being capable of something if everything goes right. I think I put Philly in a similar category where they could be a bottom 5 team, but they could be, pesky and stick around a little bit. They have a little bit more of an identity now than ever before, and Tockett's a coach that is able to kind of get the most out of guys that way, and a little bit different of an approach than they're used to with Tortorella. So Urson could be a sneaky, in that goalie 3 range. Okay, you know what? He's presumably the number 1 goalie, presumably going to grab about 45, 50 starts. How many of those are going to be wins? Are they going to get peppered? Is he going to, steal games for them? Really good value for Stardoom. That's the same goalie tandem I had in my drafts the other night, so a little bit biased in saying that that's a good pick. Skinner going around 14, that's a prime bounce back candidate given the team in front of him. If he can, they're capable of winning games 4-3, 6-4. So if he just can keep a few out of the net, they should be all right. Urson is a streamer depending on the weekend matchups. Yeah, I think it's one of those guys that, if you're going to carry 3 goalies, that's a fine third goalie to put in the cupboard. I look at Knight, I look at Askarov, I look at Jet Greaves as other, potentially higher upside guys, whether it'll all come down to whether you like the team or not, or if you like the presumed, like, sort of starter volume or not. So Urson is probably on the less I like the team, more I like the volume. Same thing with Spencer Knight. I've seen Askarov go in about that same spot, whereas Jet Greaves, I think Columbus might be capable of a little bit more than those other teams. How is Swayman so low? Boston's a big question mark, with everything they have going on, with the departures, with sort of an identity change. Who knows what that middle 6 is going to look like up front. McAvoy can hopefully stay healthy and bounce back, so I think Swayman's going to see a lot of rubber, which could mean he's stealing games, but it also could mean he's getting plenty of saves and losing games. But that should be meaningful fantasy wise. We've gotten lost a little bit in terms of recapping these picks, so we'll fire them off. Stickster grabs a good 5-on-5 contributor in Shabbat, maybe some power play time here and there, so good pick. Ya goes to Foley, should still be a good mentor for those guys, and 30 goal upside. Keller takes a swing with Perfetti. I think with the changes they've made, it's a really good opportunity for Perfetti to kind of blossom into that first round pick that he was. Blueberry goes with Here Comes the Boone, who, if healthy, will be a great contributor. Shots and hits. We'll see what Columbus's forward makeup looks like. Jagerbombs goes Eklund. Top 6 in San Jose should be a good contributor. He's kind of started to find his way, and depending on who's his center and who's his other winger, or if he's in the middle, what that 5-on-5 production could be like. But seemingly power play 1 over in San Jose. Squids goes with a guy, really sneaky good season last year. I don't know what to expect in Granlund and Anaheim. That seemed like a bit of a they'll do that thing where they'll sign a free agent just as almost insurance of, oh, you know what, he could be something, but if not, if we're struggling, we could trade him, or we could find a good fit. But who wouldn't love to live in Anaheim, right? Speaking of which, Brel goes Cutter Gauthier with 14.9, good value. We know what that upside could potentially be with the goals and shots, so we'll see. Chris grabs goalie 3 with Logan Thompson, good value, and if Washington can do what they did last year, that's going to be really good value and a really good goalie room for Chris. C2 goes Rasmus Anderson and then Gabe Landeskog, so covering some peripherals there, and hopefully Landy stays healthy. On the turn, Mac Attack grabs a good upside player in Will Smith. Lots of center eligibility and lots of dual positions on Mac Attack's team, so should be able to do whatever he wants with that lineup, which is great. And also grabs Noah Hannafin, sort of that backup option in Vegas, where the 5-on-5 is going to be there. It's just a matter of, he blossomed into a pretty good role when Theo got hurt. You never want to wish injuries, but a good safe 15th round pick to round out Mac Attack's decor there. And then as we back out a little bit, Chris grabs D4 with Schaefer, so 2 rookies and then 2 sort of steady established guys in the decor for Chris. He might go with 1 more dart throw to have a pivot option if one of Buyam or Schaefer's struggling early, but all things considered, deep forwards for Chris and a good goalie approach, but probably wanted to do something a little bit different with D. We'll see if what he did will be enough to sustain the goals. A bunch of center eligible. Kent Johnson should be, we see sort of 25 goal, 50, 60 point upside with the right minutes and with the right fit. Lundell for Squids, sneaky pick if he can kind of be consistent top 6 with Barkov out. Tremendous value this year in Bo Horvat for Jagerbombs. That's another pure C. Should be a steady, 30 goal upside, and see, if him and Barzal are together, what a duo that could be. Blueberry going with a really good dart throw in Bjorkstrand. We're starting to see these are the picks where you either really believe in where somebody's going to play, or you really believe in that individual player sort of finding that role and carving it out and taking a step this year. Bjorkstrand fits that really believing in the player's role. I think McTavish fits the really believing in the player taking a step. Let me see if I can make this a little bit smaller so then I'm not cutting off my head, but I'm also not cutting off the drafts. I'm going to see in real time what these little moves I'm making look like. Apologies if it looks terrible. I am zoomed in a little bit on the draft board too, so we'll see how that naturally changes things. Wallman for Ya. I'm not really sure what to think of Wallman this year. With him starting the season on San Jose, it was a it was a good it was a good fit because we knew he was going to contribute to everything. I think we're pretty good on the draft board and on being able to see everything. So a little bit of that chat on the right side, which I'm okay with. I trust it. I trust that nothing nefarious is going to get said there. Stickster goes Jared McCann, a good sort of. We know what the ceiling is, but without boring ourselves with watching any Seattle hockey, maybe he can find that 30 goal form again. And another player where we know what the hits can be like, we know what the shots can be like, we know he's been able to score before, and he's now on a team that desperately needs goals. So Evander Kane going 15-11 to Stardoom, great sort of dart throw pick if everything goes right there. Jokinen goes Brock Faber, minute muncher through and through. You know, he showed a little bit more of that. He showed a little bit more of that potential to be that true number 1D a couple seasons ago when he broke in. Last year was a little bit more, okay, we need you to, we don't need you to do everything, and their team has a bit of that makeup where he doesn't have to do everything, so that's always great, and we know what he can do at 5-on-5. I still want to see a little bit more points out of him, and I think he could take that next step, but maybe they'll let Bouillon kind of take and run with the offensive opportunities, and then the Anze Kopitar farewell tour starts with being drafted to Chile. I was only Jokinen, so that's a good start. 82 games to go if healthy for Anze Kopitar. Kind of one of those guys where we know he's going to chip in on everything, and with as deep as of a center position as possible. He might not be in your starting roster unless it's an off night, but still just a timeless player. It's crazy to think that he's already at his last season, and then pretty soon Crosby Ovechkin will be calling it quits, and I'll remember that I'm not as young as I used to be when I was watching hockey all the time, but definitely a fun player. Stadium goes Morgan Geekie, triple eligible guy, really kind of was one of those lone bright spots in Boston last year, so we'll see if he can pick up where he left off. Good little gamble with Fire and Ice going with Jamie Drysdale. It's a good pick. He's seemingly power play one, and hopefully Tocchet can take him and have him run with it. They've got a couple other capable D-man on that team, but Drysdale probably has the most sort of offensive upside out of those guys. Yago's with all reliable in Chris Letang. He's a guy that, you know, if healthy, we know he's just going to sort of contribute to everything. And then a great lottery pick for Keller's going with Coronado, who seemingly kind of etched his way into that Calgary top 6 this year. Josh Norris for Blueberry. See, these are the round picks that I can't help but get excited about because I see sort of that best case scenario for that player, and I see the way that I see, like, if everything goes right, this could be a really, really fun pick. So Norris is another guy, could score 30 if healthy. Seemingly number 1 center, seemingly going to get some good power play time. Arseny Griciuk. Okay, Yager Bombs goes, I'm not going to call that off the board because he's getting quite a bit of hype in Devils camp. And most recently, he was in some line rushes on the top line with Hughes and Brott. So I got a glimpse of a New Jersey preseason game, and he's a lot of fun to watch. And naturally, a lot of these guys trying to make their impression will come out sort of hair on fire and hitting everything that moves and jumping around. So Griciuk, like, that's a great sort of dart throw pick. Like that's kind of like our, oh, you know what? Let's try and take Jonathan Lekaramaki like we did last year. Oh, he's buzzing in camp. This is the time of year where some of those picks may pay off, but if they don't, it's kind of painless in the sense that, you're not going to be reliant on your round 16 pick to win you the league. But if he does, you're not going to complain, right? Letang's a good gamble if anything happens to Yossi. Chichu says, yeah, I see where you're coming from with that. Couple more forwards go here. Lafreniere for Squids. I'm once again emotionally ready to be hurt by Lafreniere. I always think he's kind of that 60-point pipe dream. Is he going to get there? We'll see if this is the year with the makeup that they have in the top 6 of the Rangers. Kuzmenko, seemingly first line left wing for LA, so that's a good pick at the spot. Chris goes with another pure center in Cousins, who should be able to. We saw close to 70 points a few years ago. Can he find that with Ottawa? And sometimes a player just needs a change of scenery out of Buffalo. I.e. Sam Reinhart. I.e. I'm not going to go too far into it in case there's any Sabres fans watching, but Sisu goes Brant Clark. That's a fine gamble there. Potentially power play 1 upside with him. And then Makatak rounds out his draft with a couple of dart throws that I'm fond of with Snuggerud, 16-12. I believe he was skating with Thomas, so if that stays and he's able to shoot and hit and create an identity for that line, that's great. And Spencer Knight, who will see a lot of rubber this year, get absolutely peppered with the puck. So if we get 50-55 starts at a night, that's awesome. And should be a fine 17th round pick. Sisu goes with Kaner, who Father Time's undefeated, but he looked fairly good last year. Chris rounds out the D-core with a 5-on-5 Muncher, Devin Taves. Given the other D going off the board, that's good value. All things considered, going with 5D is safe and smart given where we had to take the other D. Laferriere for Brell. I took him under on goals last year because I think Bet365 accidentally put him instead of Lafreniere, so happy with that one. Squids goes with the stash and Barkov. I'm not sure if he's gonna play, but we'll cross our fingers for Squids. Jet Greaves for Yager Bombs, rounding out that goaltending. Real quick. Okay, that was the third goalie for Yager Bombs. Okay, I was just making sure he wasn't reliant on just Joey and Jet Greaves. Brock Besser, round 17. Marco Rossi, round 17. Trevor Zegras, round 17. You can still get potential first line, potential 30 goal, potential 50-60 point upside players in this last round with the forwards that are still available. That's what ends up happening when the D fly, is we see lots of potential point getters get in here and are good value. So draft is over. We round out with Lehkonen for Fire and Ice, a Swiss Army knife that should be able to contribute when healthy in Colorado. And then Stardoom goes with Sean Monahan, the pure center in Columbus. I would love to see Fantilli sort of take that spot from him and Monahan be more of a complementary player than what they were kind of reliant on him for last year. But we'll see. He should kind of stick in that top 6 just fine. We'll see what the power play units are like as the season gets going. And then somebody that's in the draft room will have to tell me who Mr. Irrelevant was. That's just how Yahoo presenter mode ends up being. But we've concluded the Division 3 Central drafts. Really, really appreciate you guys being active throughout. Did my best to try and balance the chat with what was going on my screen, with the draft, with all of the voices in my head telling me to get off track on certain things. So appreciate you guys keeping me honest and keeping it fun. Wicked loves Rossi that late. Bouchard says, yeah, super interested with Askarov too. He's another guy that should get peppered with the puck. I don't remember who their other goalies are. They might still have Vanacek, perhaps. But another guy that the team is a step away, but that doesn't mean the goalie's not going to have great usage. Like, I remember Merzlikins being a really, really good categories pick a couple of years ago. He would make 45, 50 saves and then They'd lose 5-4, but he'd cover that saves category for you and get you plenty of value there. I also love Rossi that late. DeBrusque was the last pick. Okay, thank you, Stardoom. That's a solid pick. We know what he's capable of, and we saw glimpses of it in Boston. We saw glimpses of it from time to time. So if you put him and EP40 together full time, um, maybe they're able to complement each other and get that get those point totals up. Good job, kept it interesting. Appreciate you, Primus. GG Stickster, appreciate it. Um, Stickster, will not to single anybody out, but since you're in here, we'll take a look at your team real quick just for fun. I'm not gonna, like I said, I know the other guys have been a little bit more. Hey, let's recap, but um, I'm already gonna be doing that at some point. We had the D1 draft earlier, so I'll probably take a look at at the the results from that and break that down first, and then get to this Division 3 Central either tonight or tomorrow morning. But we'll take a look at Stickster, Fire and Ice, pick 10. Called his shot with Quinn Hughes. Didn't believe in. Thought it was a safer pick than Kaprizov. So love the confidence in knowing what you need, and then grabs the winger with Kyle Connor, which is, if you look at the total sort of point and power play point coverage those two players combined are going to give you, that's a really good start. And then as we go to the next rounds, we've got plenty of category coverage with Stutzel Sider. Igor round 5 is tremendous value. We see this sort of area in the draft is where the goalies started to become tremendous value. So the fact that Hellebuck fell so far and the defense rose so high, and then forward value no matter what. So to get Igor round 5, and for these other guys to get Otter and Vass round 5, that's awesome. So then we contribute more to shots with Ovi and JT, a little bit more to hits with Batherson. If two of those three guys can score 30, you're fine. And then Ghost, again, hopefully sustains that power play one throughout the year, and we know where his sort of 40-50 point ceiling is, and an okay amount of shots. And then Saros as goalie number 2. Igor Saros, 2 years ago, I would have said, oh well, what did you take in round 3 if you have Igor and Saros, So that's pretty good. And then the teen round forwards are all you kind of expect what you're gonna, you know what to expect. Frankie V, I'm a little bit concerned with Kreider being there, with Cutter being on the wing as well. We'll see what their makeup ends up being in the top 6, top 9, but we know when he has ice time, you'll have the shots, you'll have the hits. He may have touched 30 goals at one point. I don't know if that's going to happen again, but just a steady contributor. And then Marchessault, we know he can get back up to 25, 30 goals and 200 plus shots. So steady picks there. And Dylan Strome's a guy where I'm never sure what bucket or whereabouts to put him. So I think in that spot where you can always grab pure centers just about anywhere throughout the draft. It's more dependent on who you like and what team you like. So a seeming, going to be first line center, power play 1, 30 goal upside. Dylan Strome's a great pick, round 13. And then some good dart throws with McCann hopefully finding his form, with Drysdale seemingly power play 1, and then with Lehkonen kind of being that Swiss Army knife, which is great. And have a quick look. Barkov will be back by December, John says. Okay. Dr. John, I appreciate the insight. That may have been Barkov's 3rd or 4th opinion on this, so really appreciate you getting on here and letting us know the details. I appreciate it. If you don't mind, I might talk to you about. My knee's been bugging me too, so if you could look at that for me, that'd be awesome. Best Kept Secret says, do you do recaps for all drafts? And if so, where I can find it? In the Discord, it's the FPPL updates channel. Wicked called it out there as well. What I try to do as I look at the draft is I'll tag the person that drafted it, so you get a little ping. And if everybody starts talking about their teams, they can reference that and say, oh, this was Wicked's draft, this was Sven's draft, this was Chichu's draft, to to see where we're at in terms of things to look forward to. Um, it's been such a whirlwind. I don't remember where we're at in terms of the drafts that we've done. We're probably 6 or 7 deep, so about halfway done. Last one being Sunday the 5th, and then Monday the 6th is I believe, is the creators draft. So Chris and Dawn are in a league as well with some of the other fantasy hockey media on YouTube. So that should be fun as well. I'm assuming that'll be streamed by one of Chris or Dawn, but lots of other FPPL drafts to look forward to. Again, we've chipped away at a couple D3, a couple D4, Division 2 East that I'm in. Division 1 was tonight, so still a few more to enjoy and be a part of. But really appreciate the engagement. Really appreciate you guys being patient with the audio and with having everything take shape tonight naturally. But appreciate the support and appreciate everything that you guys do to make this such a great community. So 10:30 now, going to chop up the D1 draft analysis and get going from there. But appreciate you guys as always, and like, subscribe, comment, Patreon, Discord, come hang out. We're always in there. But appreciate it as always. I'm gonna click end stream. I don't know what happens after that, but have a great night.